Today I'm here to talk about the general situation in Turkey and general breakdown of what's going on in Turkey, but of course it won't be exhaustive. It's impossible to be exhaustive on this matter. First, I will take example of two laws enacted this year, which has direct impact on women. And these laws will show how patriarchy and capitalism, being two systems with their own dynamics, collaborate and support each other concretely in Turkey case. Then I will talk about the ideological pillar of this material setup, taking its very existence from these material conditions while contributing to the legitimization of the system. A bit slow, I'm sorry. Okay.
Take your time.
Slower?
Yeah. Slow.
Okay. Religious discourse in Turkey as a strong, then I would talk, religious discourse in Turkey as a strong consent manufacturing elements drawn from the cultural repository is reinterpreted according to the needs of the patriarchal capitalism. And last part will be devoted to the resistance acts of women in Turkey. The family and work reconciliation policies, being on the agenda of European Union countries since 1970s, aim to legalize and generalize the flexible working models for women. The reconciliation between family and work life means that women are supposed to work in part-time, flexible jobs without hindering reproductive duties as caregiver at home. Since these policies take for granted the assumption that the care and domestic works are the women's natural burden, the flexible working models are considered as more suitable for them, and they deepen the gender division of labor at home. Okay. As well as in the labor market. In the neoliberal era, state retreated from past responsibilities regarding the social policy domain, and the public expenditures are being minimized. It is for this very reason that neoliberalism profoundly relies on the paid and unpaid women's labor, as it is assumed that the privatized care work will be carried out by women at home, and because of their family burdens, they constitute the cheap labor pool required for the capital accumulation. And the women will be one of the most appropriate segments of working class for flexible, informal, low-wage and precarious models of working. In Turkey, it is the Justice and Development Party of Erdogan, AKP, we say AKP, which implements these above-mentioned neoliberal policies, reconciling successfully the requirements of patriarchy and those of capitalism, overcoming the contradictions between these two systems through the implementation of the familyist policies. For AKP, the discourse of increasing female employment is just a development strategy, namely a pool of cheap labor working in the flexible production conditions in order to increase its competitiveness in the global market. The summary of the familyist policies promoted by AKP is as follows. The main duty and responsibility of women is to carry out the domestic works and to take care of the children, ill, disabled, and elderly in the family. On condition that she continues to carry out her motherhood and wifehood duties, she is allowed to participate to labor market in the precarious and flexible working conditions in order to contribute to the family budget. Now I want to talk about two laws passed this year to show how these familialist policies and labor policies are intertwined. The law enacted in February makes arrangements related to the flexible working for women working in the public and private sector. And it's a concrete example showing us how the government profits from the sexist division of labor at home to restructure the paid labor market, and how the neoliberal capitalism provides a suitable ground where women become more and more dependent in the patriarchal relations. This law establishes the choice, I don't know if it's appropriate to say choice, the choice of part-time working for women after giving birth for gradually increasing periods. It means that a woman can work part-time for 2 months after one child, and after second child, she can work part-time for 4 months, and after third children, she can work part-time 6 months. According to the law, there's another clause which is very crucial also. One of the parents can work part-time until the child reaches the elementary school age. Even the law doesn't specify which parent, it is not difficult to guess that this clause targets women. And this clause will have significant impact on the social security and working life of women. During this period of part-time working, their salary and pension contributions will be calculated as half. For every child, the part-time working period is 5 years and a half. If it is used for 3 children, the total period will be 16 years and a half. This means a great loss in terms of salary, pension right, and professional progress. Even if women do not tend to use this right, the presence of this clause will nevertheless cause discriminatory practices in the recruitment process. I also want to mention another law concerning private employment agencies, which will have also direct impacts on the working class, starting from women. Before May of this year, 2016, the private employment agencies were acting as intermediary between employee and employer. But with this amendment in the work law in May, these agencies are entitled to establish temporary work relations, to act as employers themselves, and to rent workforce to other companies for short periods. Even if the inspection mechanisms and some restrictive clauses are foreseen, we all know that they can be easily bypassed. Hence, this arrangement will allow setting the temporary employment as norm. As such, the employers will manage to avoid their liabilities that they are supposed to have with their regular workers, such as severance pay. The temporary workers will be devoid of job security, and because of discontinuous payment of social security premiums, the retirement will not be an option in the future. They will not have union rights, strike or collective bargaining rights. As to the impact on the women's working life, in addition to what I've already mentioned, the vacancies left by women on maternity leave or who choose to work part-time will be fulfilled by temporary workers. For the lines of work considered as female jobs, such as seasonal agricultural work, cleaning, elderly children, and patient care, the temporary working relation will be the standard mode of working for women. These two laws had been on the government's agenda since a long time. However, because of the opposition of feminists and socialist organizations, they couldn't pass them. But this year, the frustration atmosphere caused by the bombings and killings gave to the government the opportunity that they were looking for. In the neoliberalism, these above-mentioned labor policies can be considered as global processes. When it comes to the ideological justification mechanisms, every political system seems to profit from different cultural repositories. In Turkey, this cultural repository that the government refers to is Islam. But the question if their arguments are really specific to Islam is open to debate. I want to resume some of the articles I found on the website of a government-sponsored NGO, specifically founded to produce the counter-arguments against the rising feminist movement. In that sense, their arguments are representative of government's attitude. First of all, the term gender equality is categorically refused, and instead, the term gender justice is preferred. The champions of this concept challenge the mentality of universal gender equality by claiming that it treats women and men equally and makes their differences invisible. From this point of view, gender equality does not account for the differences between men and women that emerge from their nature. In fact, they prefer to use an Islamic concept, means fitrat, divine creation, or nature. As a result, it ignores this universal egalitarian feminism, ignores their distinct duties and abilities. Moreover, it claims that gender equality masculinizes women as it compels them to perform exactly the same tasks as men. Instead of classic feminist approaches that support equal rights and opportunities between the sexes, gender justice is fundamentally based on the differentiated functions of men and women. The articles published by this NGO argue that there are physical, mental, and psychological differences between the sexes. Thus, it is important to formulate public policies in accordance with these distinctions. Additionally, it is stated that there are different expectations from men and women in the working life. So therefore, there should be flexible working hours and training programs targeted for women. From this framework, in the Turkish context, Islamic concept of fitrat, nature, that AKP constantly refers to, does not indicate desire of total confinement of women to home, because there is a confusion about it and a misunderstanding about it, even in Turkey also. Because in fact it wouldn't be really compatible with the requirements of neoliberalism. But it's also true that the increasing number of women participating to the public sphere, even if this participation is under precarious conditions, feel that they are empowered. Also, it is another fact is that the women identifying themselves as Muslims are not altogether partisans of AKP. The more oppression of patriarchy and capitalism tightens, the more women object to submission. At this point, the concept of fitrat becomes operational, aiming to define and control the limits of women's presence in the public sphere. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the more oppression tightens, the more resistance acts proliferate. In this part, I want to talk about the politically organized campaigns, the dissident voices amongst the Muslim women, and individual self-defense acts. Well, it's, of course, it's not really possible, again, to be exhaustive. The feminist campaigns that I think having a significant impact on the mobilization of women and on the dissemination of the feminist discourse are Novamed campaign, Social Security campaign, the campaign organized by Socialist Feminist Collective, of which the slogan was "We want our due back from men." Another campaign organized by, again, Socialist Feminist Collective, of which the slogan is "There is life outside the family." Women's labor platform and anti-abortion law protests. First of all, the Novamed strike has been the milestone for many feminists and women to understand the labor aspects of women's exploitation and intertwined relations between paid labor and unpaid domestic labor. In 2006, 81 women workers went on strike in Novamed, affiliate of the multinational medical device manufacturing firm Fresenius Medical Care, which conducts its business in the free zone. With the support of the trade unions and feminist mobilization, the feminist mobilization targeted the boss-managed patriarchy at work. The second campaign is the Social Security campaign in 2008. In this campaign, we highlighted that the state's policies should diminish the gender division of labor within home, rather than maintaining the sustainability of double burden. As to the third campaign, its main slogan was, "We want our due back from men." Here we emphasize that men are the primary beneficiaries of patriarchy through gender division of labor at home. And also, as fourth campaign, important campaign, we also established a platform called Women's Labor Platform with women from trade unions and diverse left-wing organizations against the attempt of the Turkish state to confine us to family and precarious working conditions by abusing the concept of reconciliation of family and work. In the campaign, which the slogan is "There's life outside the family," in 2013, we challenged the conservative neoliberal notion of family based on unpaid labor, lifelong caregiving, violence, and oppression. And in the anti-abortion law protest in 2013, I guess, the thousands of women went on the streets to challenge the government's attempt to limit the abortion law, and we made the government retreat the draft law. And now I want to stop here a little bit to talk about more about the campaign we want our do back from men, because I think it may give you a general idea of the holistic view of socialist feminists in Turkey. Even if these demands were formulated in 2010, and there may be some points that may be that needs to be updated, it may give you a general view about the socialist feminism in Turkey. In this campaign, in fact, it was organized by Socialist Feminist Collective in 2010, and in this campaign, men was not formulated as an abstract category that we can hold responsible without being able to demand anything, but rather, here, men represents the real people with whom we share life, such as fathers, husbands, sons, brothers, or lovers, etc., who are first-hand responsible for the lower status of women. In the main declaration of this campaign, women are invited to stop doing the housework, force men to do all the housework and care work, including emotional labor. Even if this campaign is based on three interrelational pillars, state, capital, and man, the first paragraph and the title of the campaign are deliberately attributed to men and indicate that the origins of the overall oppression of women remains in the unpaid domestic and care labor, from which men take advantage directly in the household. Well, when it comes to state and capital, they weren't exempt of concrete demands. If I have to resume, we demanded from boss, for example, we demand equal pay for equal job, non-transferable parental leave for fathers, the right to be unionized and have access to social security. We want nurseries in all workplaces which hire more than 50 workers, irrespective of sex. And we want our children to go to nursery in their father's workplace also. We also demand neighborhood nurseries and also safe transportation for 24 hours to and from work. And as to the demands from the state, we demanded the right to retirement pension at 50, and we want to be paid unemployment fees once we start looking for a job until we get one. We demand quotas for women in technical skill courses, and also we want the right to individual health security and a decent shelter for all women. And it goes on like this. It's just to give you an example of the situation of the demands. Well, now as to the dissident voices amongst the Muslim women, I want to talk about, mention a web blog named Reçel, meaning jam like marmalade. The naming of the blog refers to a sexist speech of an Islamist writer saying that, I always tell to my female students not to deal with the Islamic sociology, but to learn how to make jam at home. So the bloggers decided to create a virtual space in order to challenge and disclose this sexist mentality and practices of Muslim men. This blog is important in the sense that it's a critique of conservative men from inside by the women coming from the same community. As to the also self-defense, individual self-defense acts, well, we are witnessing the increasing number of this kind of self-determination and self-defense acts, and they seem not to have apparent political objective or political claims. And these acts in general, they are against the rising violence of men in close relationships, like husbands and partners and fathers. Istanbul Feminist Collective publishes a monthly report named Women Are Fighting for Their Lives. This report aims to make public the stories of women who killed or injured the men who tortured and beat them for years. In the political climate where capitalism and patriarchy surpassed their contradictions with the feminist policies and the flexible working models, the male violence against women is also escalating. And women feel more and more trapped by the passivity of law enforcement officers and the judicial decisions in favor of men, and of course with the support of the political party, ruling political party. And at the point of enough is enough, they find new ways of surviving, resisting, and defending themselves. So, as a conclusion, to wrap up all these things, it's true that now the government tightens the oppression on the overall oppositional movements, including feminists, by abusing the decree laws promulgated under the state of emergency. Well, in fact, when we were organizing these campaigns and the mass movements that I mentioned now, we were not under a democratic state neither. The point that we have come now is the continuation of the earlier process that we are used to live and resist in fact. So for me, what matters now is that the self-determination and resistance acts that we see on daily lives of women, even if they don't claim to be feminist or political. And, well, just I want to also conclude saying that there was a case in Turkey. There was a woman whose name is Çilem Doğan, and she was arrested after she murdered her husband in a fight to defend herself. And when she was arrested, in fact, she says a sentence addressed to other women, saying that don't lower your eyelashes. It means that, it's an expression in Turkish, and it means that don't live in desperation and submission. It was very important. This woman is not a political person, it doesn't claim to be feminist, but it means that feminism has an impact also on the women's life. I don't know. Well, thank you.